I managed to take a nice picture.
Okay, so it's for us 3, 2, 1, and yep, we are live for our today's session. Good evening and good day, everyone, for today's Eventful Bytes. And this time, we are going to have our Ask Me Anything series with Shanaz Bapuji, who is a seasoned marketer, a former CEO, and founder CEO of Skyfall Agency. Today, of course, it's going to be all about the business of marketing, right? And how we bring in the scientific aspect in the business of marketing. Isn't it, I would say, isn't it a little paradoxical when we are talking about the scientific methods and then we are talking about the business aspect? But yes, this is the crux, or you can say the holy grail, which we're going to solve and get Shanaz to share her insights on that. But before we jump on to today's session, because I have got a list of amazing questions which we have received from the audience, and I have my own bucket list as well. But over to you, Shanaz. Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure thing. Hi everyone. Very good to meet. And Shika, I should congratulate you because you've become some fellow and some ambassador for CMO Alliance and stuff, which I I just saw on LinkedIn before getting onto this. Yeah, so I look after, or rather, I've been in the marketing and advertising world. I've spent over 30 years building brands, across India, across different states, across the region, and of course globally. And Currently, what I do is I founded rather a marketing advisory company called Skyful. Ask me what Skyful stands for, and I'll very happily tell you that it's basically a sky full of opportunities for brands. And I'm largely catering to startups, but not limited to serving startups only, because like I serve the spectrum. Oftentimes there are a lot of people who struggle with understanding where to start with marketing, because that's, again, it's a skill set. Like you kind of called out the fact that there's a science to marketing. So quite like any other specialized field, marketing is also a specialized field, and it requires skills and aptitude and knowledge and all of that. So yeah, so I mean, I've really been enjoying myself building Skyful out, building the brands that I partner with, and mentoring a lot of startups along the way.
Yep. Thank you
Shika,
so
any more details? You can
No,
tell me what you want, how much you want.
yeah, so we're going to delve into more details as we go further towards the session, Shanaz. But yeah,
Sure.
of course, it's a very interesting name, and then we know the sky is not the limit for you. You are coming with such a rich background of experience, more than 2 to 3 decades into marketing. And when we talk about this particular discipline, right? There must be different phases when you had started, and when now you are at that juncture when you have founded your own advisory. You can say, your own marketing advisory. But then, and then you might have seen a lot of biases, a lot of perceptions which are built into the C-suite as well, because you were a part of that particular circle as well, and now you're also interacting with that particular set of segment as well. So marketing receives so much of love, right? So we do receive a lot of love from the industry. So why is that this particular discipline, which we love ourselves a lot as well, it attracts so much of love and is always the most discussed and debated in the C-suite. So, what are your thoughts? And then, of course, I would really, the audience would really love to hear about your experiences about
Sure.
this love and hate relationship which goes in and around.
I haven't come across hate. I mean, it is love, but it's like, tempered love at times. Because I think it again comes from the space that not everybody gets marketing. Not everybody understands anything unless it's very tangibly presented to them initially. Like I can tell you that through my experience, whether you're a well-established brand or whether you're a startup, everybody wants, give me the sale quickly. And if you do a particular piece correctly, as in if it resonates with the customer set and you get the right results, then everybody like loves you. And if marketing doesn't function like okay, 1 + 1 = 2, there are so many aspects in the entire mix to finally reach a customer and get a good sale. And often, like, I think the more immature mindsets will say that, oh, this person didn't do their job. And when I'm saying this person, I'm meaning the department. But actually, building the brand is very much the responsibility of everyone, whether it's in the C-suite or right down to the junior most trainee or executive in the company. And that's the small thing that people kind of forget to make note of, because it's always someone else's problem. It actually is not. You have an opinion about everything, but you don't want to take part in building it out. And like, I guess, if well done, marketing, brand building, the right strategies, the right pathways that you choose, understanding your customer, doing the right GTM, understanding the intricacies of what goes into, a particular channel. All of that, if it's done right, it will give you results. There's no question. If you try and short circuit the system, uh, I'm sorry, it doesn't work. And time has proven it. Brands have fallen off the radar because of not doing things right. Startups have vanished from the scene because they've not been able to sustain themselves, not only because of funding, but because they didn't create that connect with the customer or the audience set for a variety of reasons. I think the reason why we exist in the marketing and advertising field is to give reason for why brands exist or why products exist, and give reason to customers to love you. Love in the right sense, not in the sarcastic sense. But yeah, you also heard that this is one of those things where, because the result of what you do is also fairly visible, then everybody has a point of view on that visible piece. Oh, I don't like that ad. Oh, I didn't like that post, or that campaign didn't work well. I think what one needs to do, and I've come across very, very good partners in a lot of founders as well. Some people really get it and they invest their time and energy on it. Some people don't get it, but they still respect the field. There are others who don't get it, they don't respect it, but they have an opinion. So to them, good luck.
Yeah.
You take your way and you ignore them, because there's no other way around it. In the earlier days, I could get very hassled with someone because they reacted in a particular way, or they do the blame game, or they work in silos. Over time, maturity sets in, and then you live and let live, and you slowly but surely kind of influence the thinking. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I hope that answers
Yes,
your question about the love
yes,
that we
of
get.
course. And then it does open up our next set of discussion points as well, Shanaz. I
Sure.
believe you rightly said that there are two sets of people, one who gets marketing and one who doesn't get marketing, right? And one who gets marketing, they do understand that's a long tail game. You cannot achieve success or results just by a few clicks. It is something which takes time, because of course when we talk about brand building, when we talk about brand awareness, there is a lot of trust factor which comes into a play, and it's just like any other relationship wherein trust is not built in a second or in a day. It takes a lot of time, and that's the
Right.
kind of relationship I think the C-suite, specifically I think CEOs and founders of business sets, they should really understand and then get it that even if they don't have hands-on, or probably they're not involved in the strategy aspect, I believe they should really respect the talent whom they have brought in. And I believe that is also very directly proportional to the tenure which a CMO has in any of the company, right? So I think there was a trend or there were a lot of discussions which were made around that the average tenure of a CMO is just around 2 years. But I've also seen organization, and of course also seen the kind of alignment when it comes into the C-suite. CMOs, they were you can say holders of the growth. They were the proponents of taking the business of marketing ahead and working hand in hand with their sales and customer success and
Right.
other stakeholders as well. Yeah. Okay, so I think let's move to the scientific aspect, Shanaz, and then of course going by your experience, I'm sure you would have come across a lot of frameworks, a lot of methods which actually helps a marketer achieve what they are looking for in terms of revenue, in terms of growth, and then of course in terms of numbers. Because of course, each of the campaign or each of the story has to have it needs to be backed up with the data, right? So,
Right.
any scientific methods which you can share with our audience, which has worked and which still holds true, and then with specific focus on GTM aspect, because I think this is one of the most misunderstood word in the entire domain, wherein we talk about that. Okay, we need to get a brand or a product done. Let's get the GTM done. Let's just go to market. But for them, it's not only in quotes go to market. There is a lot of things which goes into the background. So, what are your thoughts and your what is your
So I'm a huge proponent and perhaps the creator of a concept called the marketing path to profitability. Okay, and I arrived at that concept obviously on the back of all this experience that I've had interacting with so many people, interacting with investors, VCs, startups, and the mix. Okay, and basically, I mean, the simple concept is that usually speaking, marketing ends up being seen to be, that line item which is very dispensable, which is the moment, like, oh, the global cues will be pathetic, then, hack the marketing team first, because, oh, that's the expense that goes into the brand. But, COVID and otherwise, I mean, situations have taught us that, good brands, they never go cutting the marketing dollar, just randomly, because they know that if they lose the connect between the customer and the product that they're trying to sell, then chances are that whenever there's a comeback that happens with the economy, chances are that they'll be the ones who'll be remembered and they'll be the ones who will succeed. And we've heard and read and seen a lot of examples, through the past couple of years, where brands who are doing very well today are the ones that didn't drop the ball on the customer, even during trying times. Okay, so of course, I mean, the aspect of the science is that it's a process. It's like, when you're building a house, there are fundamentals that you can't ignore. You can't just build a roof out of thin air, right? You need to put the pillars, you need to put the building blocks, you need to get the right material in place before you can, create either a penthouse or whatever it is that you want to build. So, likewise, in marketing tech, there are some fundamental building blocks that you need to put in place. Okay, you need to understand who your bullseye customer is, and, like, each time I speak to people, some of them don't get the nuance of this. Everybody says, "Huh, my target audience is, oh, women 18 to 20, 34, blah blah, living in metros, whatever, savvy, digital, all the stuff that you anyway should do." I mean, it's table stakes. Like, that's demographic detail that anyone can put together. Understanding your bullseye customer is a process. There's a science to it. And if your product is not there in the market, then there's also an approach to how to get the best out of a customer set that you are going to appeal to, and that will become a potential base for you. There are triggers and barrier researches that you do to understand what will make a person, either fall for a product or detract from that product. Okay, that's like the understanding of the audience. Then there's this whole piece of getting the tone of voice, the elevator pitch, the positioning, the proposition all going right. Again, like, these are not one word. Like, each one of these one, like, they're just words, right? But there's so much that goes into building those words. It sometimes takes months to crack the proposition for the brand. It takes months only because you never ever think that you've got enough information about your customer. And then, like, you information surrounds us all, but it's like what you do with that information, how you interpret it with experience across category learnings, with your customer, with competition, with potential that exists in the market. All of that has to be stitched in for you to finally get a distinctive proposition out in the market. And, like, a lot of brands sometimes come back and tell me that, hey, I want to be like XYZ brand. Okay, your starting point only becomes compromised. You want to be like, then yeah, sure, even I want to be the queen. But the way it works is that it's good to have aspirational sets of brands that you want to be, but you need to understand what your own strengths are. And even, for example, in commoditized categories, you have to find a way to drive a strategic difference in your proposition, in what you're going out to the market with. And that's when you'll have people that will obviously come your way, and then you build that equation. A lot of startups you've seen in the past who are very well funded, a lot of them have kind of short circuited the piece in terms of blasting advertising, so that everybody at least gets to know their brand or gets to know the brand name. In some instances it works beautifully, right? In some instances it backfires because you've gone and blown up your money, and now you've got no sale, and you've not been able to do it right. Again, why does that happen? There's a science to why you should do what you should do. Then of course there's this whole piece of, okay, once you've understood what you want to sell, even growth brands who are past series A, B, or people who are not playing the startup game but they're established brands. Even they are looking for the next 1,000 crore sale, or the next, how do they double from here on, where they're already in a position of strength. Then it's a question of, is their GTM strat absolutely right? Or are they budgeting correctly? Or like the disciplines that they are choosing, do they even know what's going on there? Like, for example, uh, one of the areas where people get conned the most is in performance marketing, because you don't understand digital marketing. So people come to you with plans, they'll sell impressions to you, and you think, oh wow, you've impression means you'll get many millions of impressions, and in a market like India, it's not difficult if you put in the money, and oh wow, those impressions will lead to sales. Sorry, penny drop moment doesn't happen like that. So I counsel, and I also work alongside with a lot of partners and the C level, to kind of be their ear to the ground on what the reality is, not to compete with their marketing teams, or to say that, oh, this agency that you're working with is rubbish, but basically to tell them if they're on track or not. Okay, and sometimes they do get conned. If they're doing everything perfectly, then everybody gets a thumbs up and it's good. You will see the results follow through. But yeah, so there's science in understanding the customer set, the science in this whole space of data mining, this whole space of customer. I mean, everybody talks about, oh, customer insight. Hello, there's a difference between information, insight, actionable insight. There is a methodology to that madness, and you should know how to maneuver, you know, um, situations where either people don't know enough, or even if they know enough, they don't know how to interpret it right. So yeah, I mean, I can keep talking about this because it's a very close to my heart subject. But yeah, I mean, that's what keeps me busy every day. I mean, either
Yeah.
as a mentor or a fractional CMO, or like working with brands
Yeah.
today.
I have a follow-up question for this one, Shanaz. I'm sure you would have come across this one. You said that most of the brands, or most of the, say, some of the products, they come to say, and that, hey, we would really like to be like that. Our messaging should be exactly like that. Because why they say that? Because that is being successful, right? But then,
Right.
and when you are probing them further, that, okay, what is your distinct factor? What is that particular USP which you have to offer? Did you come across when they say that price is our distinguishing factor? That's it. Now we have to play on the price point. Do you think at that particular point of time they should just pack their bags? Because
No,
um,
no. I think it's not about disrespecting someone's dream or someone's way of looking at things. It's about like helping them along the right path to arrive at the right endpoint. Because like I come across a lot of founders. Sometimes some are very young, some are very old, some are whatever, all kinds of age groups. And the psyche of a founder is that they get very defensive if you tell them that they could have done something better. So the way to do it is not in this particular way, that, oh, you should have done this better. It's about reframing and giving very, very positive feedback. Because see, these, you have to appreciate also that these founders are spending their life, soul, and blood, and all their hours living and breathing this dream. And they may not have all the perfect answers. Some get it very quickly that, hey, I can't do this on my own, I need the help. And then they reach out. But some are stubborn enough to think that they know everything. But sooner than later, like, yeah, they come wagging
Yeah.
their tails behind them.
Once the money is burnt, and then once they realize that, so I think they're gonna come back to the drawing board and understand that.
I mean, the one thing for everybody to remember is that if the brand building or marketing thinking is seeded into a brand at the start, or like, even if you're like, I work with a lot of brands who are 7 and 8 years in the business, but they still haven't nailed some very basic things. If you ask them the question, who's your bullseye customer, okay, what's really is your proposition, how are you really different from competition, they struggle. And again, nothing wrong with them. It's not as if you are better than them. It's just that because you've been trained to look at stuff in a particular way, you have slightly better answers. And it's up to the relationship for them to perceive you as being the right person to give you those answers. And if it's not, it's not. If it is, then super. Like, you pave the way for people, and everybody wants success, right? You want to help people. Like, I even I'm part of the Startup India program as a mentor. And, we've just built a small community of 18, 20 people, including, these upcoming startups, some people very in their mid stage. And you should hear the conversations from these people. Everybody, there's an eagerness to make your mark. And some are like very well honed. They're already being very successful, but they still look for advice if they're not doing something right. So it's like that, like, when there are people and there are people.
Yeah, I think
um,
that's the key, right? So wherein the eagerness comes to learn. So it doesn't matter whether you are the founder, whether you are the C-suite, or whether you are you can say in the middle, or at least in the junior role as well. So
huh.
I believe, I mean, of course, moving on to the next one, Shanaz, because of course, earlier you were handling teams, and now you're also handling a set of the people, coaching and mentoring as well. So earlier, what were the practical steps you had put into place, Shanaz, to coach, mentor the second line of, you can say, the leadership? Because of course, being a leader is always about making the place for the other person. So
Yeah.
did you face any challenges wherein probably the middle rung, or probably the team which you had handled, therein the business of marketing, or the zest which really needs to come across, wherein the growth and the revenue aspect needs to be looked at? Did you find that like a very easy breeze which came across, or you had to train and coach, continuously train coach and mentor those team?
I think, I mean, obviously, in the span of my career, I have come across all kinds of situations. Okay, there have been times where I've also had to let go of people who just don't get it despite whatever you say. And, it's like one of those worlds where, no one's a bad human being. But end of the day, you're interacting or you're in an official environment because people are looking to you to get you the results, or get them the results that they really hired you for. And if your team construct doesn't align to those goals, then they are misfits. Now, you either, like, as human beings, you'll have a soft spot, and you'll either find opportunities for people who can be redeemed. But there are a lot of people who can't be redeemed, and you have to put, like, you have to really be very strong. Like, in the initial days, it was like torture to do it, to be like, to be the firm one. And a lot of people in my, like, I'm quite a, like, I keep saying that I'm assertive. I as a woman, you can appear to be very aggressive also, and people don't get the difference between assertion and aggression. But you kind of live with that and you move on. The like, even for us, when you're looking up to people, you're always looking for respect in the leader, so that, like, you it's not about you learning every day from that leader, but it's like someone you want to work with and look up to for their vision for the company. So, like that, you need to be standing when you're a leader in whichever role that you're in, whether you're a leader in a mid management role or a senior role or C suite or whatever it is. You're constantly having to coach and get your teams to deliver beyond what they could think they were able to achieve. In many cases, even till today, all the youngsters who I used to call smally, because they were the bachas in the team. They've grown up to be beautiful professionals, and they're all still in touch with me. Okay, and they're all doing really well, and that's like a super piece of happiness for me. There are a lot of people I'm sure who wouldn't have liked the fact that I've called a spade and, to get them on track. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But theek hai. So yeah, so constant coaching is extremely important. One big precept that I kind of keep telling people is you set the pace for your own career. See, I could only give advice that I myself lived. Like I've walked the talk. So I've like risen from a literally like, account executive, senior account executive, whatever in the agency world, and then moved up to whatever roles. Okay. And I've realized one thing, that no one stops you if you are passionate about your ideas, if you are getting the results, and if you're carrying people along with you. Okay, those are taken for granted things, but a lot of the human skills are very, very important when you grow up in your career. And that's like, I find even today, I find a lot of interns, they're very brash in the way they interact. They all want like an internship, but they will, uh, let me just say, the finessing is not there. And you just wonder that, okay, they look like they've got great backgrounds, they're in the right MBA institutes or whatever they're doing, but what happened to just good old manners? And maybe I'm like old fashioned about some things, but those things go a long way. People remember you for those things, like the politeness and the predictability that you bring to the table. Someone needs to always feel that you're dependable. If you have a client and you've promised them something, you make sure either as a brand or as an individual, you are fulfilling the promise. If you don't, they pick up an impression of you, like they will pick up an impression of the brand. If the brand did not live up to the customer's expectations, they'll get a thumbs down and they will never get repeat purchase. If the brand lived up or exceeded, and that's what we do in marketing and brand building, which is that we always help try and understand the customer psyche and try and always exceed expectations, so that this same customer can come back with many more for you. Bird in hand, were two in the bush kind
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah. And I think you might have realized that, or probably must be feeling that's the biggest earning when the team members, or you can see the professionals whom you have coached and mentor, they have achieved great heights. I think
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
biggest form of satisfaction. Now a job well done, right? So okay, done.
Yeah, in life you come across political situations as well, where one team, just like has a bad impression of an individual, and the individual, I mean, it takes two to clap, right? So maybe there was friction for the right reason, but because of sheer politics, the person who could have given extra stopped doing it because they kind of got sidelined. And I've even had to deal with those kind of situations where I've really taken the persons on, told them upfront that I'm going to give you a chance and we'll see how to make it work. If it works, super. If it doesn't work, you're out the door, because anyway, your earlier teams have told you to move out the door. And in my case, and with those people, it's netted off great results. I mean, they are my friends today. They are running their own businesses. They're rocking. So yeah, there's that little satisfaction.
Yes, yes. And I think these are the, of course, practical learning experiences, which are never taught in any of the textbooks, right? So
Sure.
you need to have a hands-on. You learn by your own experience that, okay, this worked, this didn't work, this worked, this didn't work. Let me try this particular method as well.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah. So bringing the methods back, of course, into our conversations, Shanas. Um, how do you feel again? Going back and with your experience, that do you think that marketers, they have, you can say, understood the way, the flow of a B2B, their prospect, what is the kind of journey they take it, and where exactly they need to come across, whether it's awareness, consideration, the decision making cycle, and how they are going to solve the pain points rather than becoming too pushy, bombarding them with the messaging. Do you think, if you talk about the graduation of a marketer, earlier and today, with the kind of digital landscape which we have and so many tools, we talk about martech space, I think there is X amount of tools which are available, data, I don't think so there is a dearth of data in understanding our buyer persona and what exactly they are talking about. Do you think that with all this kind of knowledge which is there in a marketer's hand, they have become more intelligent in understanding that how they can bring in the more scientific aspect without losing that connection with the buyer, and how they can treat them better so that they can have the.
So let me answer it a little laterally. In the early days when you need to, like, let me just take India as an example. Uh, it was difficult for the average Indian to go out and buy fashionable clothes. Okay, whatever. Cut to today's environment where fashion and fast fashion exists, and you only if you are sloppy will you end up looking crappy. Otherwise, you have everything from a 200 rupee blouse or a shirt or whatever to whatever you want to spend, whatever, 20,000, 2 lakhs, 5 lakhs, whatever. So, like the options are available, and there's no excuse now for you to end up looking terrible, because fashion is available for everyone. We're not getting into the nitty gritties of, oh, is this really fashion or is it not? But at least you can look better rather than the boring kind of look. You can't say that there are no options, right? So similarly with marketers, like today you are surrounded by options. There is a proliferation of media vehicles to reach the customer. People will respect you if you bring the expertise to the table, and there is nothing to take away from that. Like, I'll tell you that you can't faff your way through a relationship and expect people to respect you. People are coming to you like they will come to a specialist. You have symptoms and you go to an oncologist. Only an oncologist will be able to pinpoint and tell you, okay, this cancer has this line of treatment. Okay, if you see people faffing, which I hope you never find in a cancer situation, they will never survive. They will never get the next piece. Likewise with marketers, I mean, people, there are only few that you can respect, and the onus is on you to learn, because you're supposed to bring that expertise to the table. You can't say that I don't know. You make it your job to go in and figure it out, and then come back and recommend. Now, like in a place, in a situation like digital marketing, it's an ever evolving landscape. So don't fall for anyone coming and saying that I'm a digital marketing expert. No one can be an expert, because it's like a shifting ground. So to whatever extent there are things which are stable, you'll be an expert in, but you have to constantly learn. So this is the only truth, Shika. Like, for marketers to earn respect, don't let go of the goals of the brand, and make sure you're aligning to those. If in whichever side you are, if you're the agency side, then you make sure that you align with your client and your brand, the brand's requirements. If you're the client side, then anyway you're holding the baby and the bathwater. So you have to ensure that you also, as a client, need you need to invest behind the learning, so that you don't get conned. Like I gave you the example of that impression. Okay, so many, all impressions don't lead to sales, and everybody will tell you that, but there's a learning curve for it. Like the moment you get into like digital marketing, हाँ performance marketing है, अच्छा कल से मेरे को I need 5 lakhs of sales. हाँ, hello.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. Yeah, sure, there's a market. Sure, there's an addressable market that all of those are tick, 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 tick. But have you created a connect with your audience? Do people even know about you? Do they trust you? Okay, and are you saying the right things in the right way? What's your strategy? What's your communication pitch? Are you being singular are you being single minded in the way you're speaking? And are you stitching a story for that customer in an interesting way, no matter what you tell them whenever you meet them?
Yeah, but I think,
Okay,
of course,
just half an hour session. I mean, there's a lot that I can speak about, but
no, no, but I think these are the subjects which are like very close to our heart as well, Shanaz, and I think we live and breathe, and we feel for these things, right? Because of
of
course,
course,
when the right methods, the right way is not being, it actually pains. Trust me. So it is very painful that,
that's very true.
and of course that was a heart which went you can say behind all these questions as well. And yep, I think we are at the top of the hour. But then, of course, we do have questions from our audience,
Sure
Shanaz,
thing.
as the session is all about Ask Me
Sure.
Anything. So you want to take a sip of water or tea before I take the questions?
I'm
Okay,
good. I have
sounds
my
good.
tea, so happy to. Yeah. And I
Okay,
think
sounds good.
I think to any viewer who's seeing this live or who's going to see this later, I mean, if you're stuck with something and you need the help, then reach out. I mean, at best we'll have a conversation which will result in okay, it worked out well or it's not working out well. But like, don't sit with the problem. Share the problem and you'll find an answer. That's all my advice to people is.
Said that. Okay, so I have the first question from the audience, Shanaz, and then it's like that. What was your biggest challenge when you were designing this strategy? Which was focused on the business of marketing, either in your previous role or while you're handling your agency right now.
Uh, no, I don't think that there's a dearth of opportunities. But like I said, that a lot of people, I mean, you need to understand how to interact with different sets of people. So the people who acknowledge and they already know that, okay, I know marketing and brand building is a very important thing, but I don't know where to start, then they are more open to listening to good advice. There are people who say हाँ brand building है हाँ important है but आप बताओ. So they may perceive this whole piece. They won't even appreciate the time it takes. They won't appreciate the money it involves. But with them you have to temper down your narrative as well and go step by step, very patiently, very slowly. And I can tell you, I don't think it's like the principles of what you need to put together or the hard work that you put together. It's most of the time it's like the management of the expectations and the people, so that people understand that you're doing this for a result, and the result is something that both of you are tuned into achieving. It's not as if there is a vendor conversation happening. The conversation is about meeting the same objective and the same goal together with each other's strengths. So I don't think like there's ever been like a maha you know challenge. It's about carrying people along, of course. It's about educating most of the time. Sometimes you say, no, you can't do this. Like it's very time consuming to educate CEOs. And you also have to weigh the fact that there are egos and there are sensitivities, and you can't ever make the CEO look foolish ever. That's just bad manners. You'll be stupid to do it. So you'll have to find the time to kind of bring the CEO up to speed. You'll have to find the time to bring the rest of the board or the rest of the C-suite up to speed, so that they themselves appreciate it and push it. Because marketing is not something that will work from one function. Every individual in that company has a responsibility to build the brand. And that's something that if people understand and learn, you get much better results.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, bang on.
Large answer, but yeah.
Okay, moving to the second question, Shanaz, that there is always this kind of a chicken and egg story, right? So that, or probably you might have also heard now with your present assignments as well, that we have the product ready. The product is ready. We are ready to go to market in quotes. So, have you seen that, or probably you can share the certain kind of percentages, like say 50%, they got the product right, and then they have their product market fit, platform market fit, and they are going right onto the GTA maturity curve. Or probably there are a certain set, say around more than 50%, wherein the product is ready, they are just bullish to just go to the market and get some sales, have some quick wins, etc. So, what is kind of ratio which you have seen in this kind of?
I think okay. So people who are building tech-enabled products, very often it's like the CTO kind of profile or the CEO. I mean, they are very close to the product itself, and they kind of forget the landscape around it. They're so passionate about the tech that they're building and the problem that it can solve, that they've forgotten to understand the fit. And in some cases, let's assume that all of that, they're checkboxes. Market fit is there. They've already done their, the POC has worked really well. There is a huge addressable market. The revenue in the future can look brilliant. Okay. But what they do is they kind of end up struggling with, if I tell you, do you have like a brand identity in place for your brand? People say, ha, logo to hai. I have a logo. Is there something else to be done? So that's when then you start educating. Okay, so brand identity will actually it actually factors for a lot of things, including your positioning, including your audience, including the tone and manner that you want to adopt for your brand, including the brand's voice, including the persona, including competition and what you should not do, including the category. Now, there's so many aspects. People, what they do is some of them go in and cut to the chase and brief a small, say, a freelancer to get a brand identity manual in place, which has no meaning in the future because no one in the scheme of things has understood it or understood the value of why it exists. So I hope that answers your
So,
question. But
do
yeah,
you see the weighing scale more towards?
percentages. No, I can't say because it depends on the category. Like tech-enabled brands, a lot of people, forget the plot and they've got a like they have a very very ready product, and they've done all of that. Like they've done everything correctly, but they've forgotten that they actually have to sell to an audience, and they don't know enough about the audience. And I see a lot of that. A lot of conversation I'm doing with people is about that, which is that who actually is your bullseye customer? Have you really understood what it is that will make them really buy you versus not buy you? And those appear to be basic, but you don't have the right answers. And in some cases, even if they have the answers, I mean, people are cautious and rightly so, because the moment you go out into the market, you only have one chance to succeed or, like, to make a failure. So you better have that mix right. So to those kind of people, I obviously always suggest doing a pilot, getting a feel of the place, getting a feel of the audience, seeing what the responsiveness is from either one particular market or choose two or three pilot markets, and then going all
All
out.
out. Okay.
So stuff like that. But percentages wise, I can't say, oh, someone's like 50% get it, 20% don't get it. I don't think that's the right. I don't think it'll be fair for me to come up with that.
Okay, okay, no worries. And a related question to this one has been asked, Shanaz, that have you come across cases wherein people who were just ready with the product, they just went out into the market without even doing the pilots. They faced, you can see, complete backlash. They fell flat on their face, and then they again have to come back to the drawing board, and then they see that, okay, what went wrong, and then that was their chance to get it right. Uh,
I think while we speak, we have a lot of people in that space right now in the market. But let me just also tell you that the like they say the consumer is not a moron. Like that, the founder is not a moron. Okay, today when founders are coming up, they understand. They've seen Shark Tank. They've got exposure into a lot of stuff that that is associated with building a product, going into the market. They understand the vagaries of how you have to manage so many things in place. So I think some tick off the boxes are definitely there, because they know that there's no survival path, but that doesn't mean that everything that they go out into the market with, or the timing that they choose, is always perfect. So you don't all meet with ready success, because you won't be able to fault the product, you can't fault the technology, you can't fault the set, but something is missing. And to identify that something missing takes, like, then you like reinvent the wheel. And it like, for example, there are a lot of people who say, I'll come as the cheapest or whatever, the most reasonable or blah 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 brand in the market. Again, like, you have very short term strategies for something like this, because you can't sustain on those kind of strategic models unless, like, you're a large brand willing to, like, shut everybody up and have very deep pockets that you'll be able to sustain the pressure over time. So there are certain foolhardy strategies that you should not take on at the start, and there are certain things that, I mean, you can get there in today's day and age. Like, see, brand building is a long term process, everybody knows, but a lot of what we are calling, continuing to call startups, but they're not startups, they're unicorns and stuff. But a lot of those people came in with a lot of deep pockets, and they spent a lot of money to create the imagery, and were able to at least get awareness levels in a boom. So, and then they kind of like petered it down, to try and, like, get the balance going, because obviously there's investor pressure also. Hello, where's the profitability? We all read about the stories of very very well, uh, very very polished founders of very very big brands still not breaking even. still under the red. Very few people who are the large brands are actually, profitable. We hear those stories. One knows what goes into it. So yeah.
Yes,
My advice to even startups is that when it's a long term game, and it's a very exhaustive game, so you better be there with some kind of homework done. You get excited with an idea, and it's like you'll get a lot of people saying, yeah, yeah, the market is just right for this. But guys, there's no way that you can bypass certain things that you definitely have to do, and one of those big things is marketing and brand building. Otherwise you're just another product
exactly. Just another product
that you can buy.
into the market. Yes. Okay. So one last question from the audience, Shanaz, before
Sure.
we sign out for today's session is that what will be your advice to the of course to the marketers when they are understanding the business of marketing, and then of course they are not involved in those kind of management discussions, marketers who are either at the middle management or who are just starting up, but they have the zeal to get this concept right from their, when they are beginning their career. So what will be your advice?
I mean, I'll tell you the advice that has worked for me in my life. And that has been that never drop the ball on the brand or the customer. If you drop the ball on the customer, and if you drop the ball on the client that you're serving, whatever, or that brand, there's no future. Unfortunately, that's the reality. Now, how you pave yourself or how you fit into that mix by doing whatever it is that you think you're good at. So, sharpen the skills that are required for that piece. No one has stopped you from growing quickly, but you need to take the initiative. It's like we always said in our kind of worlds, like we'll open the doors for you, and there are huge opportunities. But if you choose not to walk through that door, there's nothing I can do. So now I've also heard of a lot of stories where opportunities, I mean, the doors are not opened for people because they are told that no, for this kind of role, you have to be here for so many years, and that reality also exists. But then the only way to shine is when you keep thinking and you find a way to come up with ideas that really work, because the idea can come from anyone, and if that idea resonates, you have to find a way that your idea sees light of day, and the right people get to hear it. If it's sheer bad luck that your idea doesn't find its path, then fine, then you will be someone sitting at the desk or whatever, doing your bit, being happy, but not like working to your potential. So I know that this may sound very simplistic because different companies have different realities, and we've heard of so many corporations where so many people are either very happy or so many are unhappy. We've heard of toxic cultures and all of that. So, I mean, if you were to cut through all of that, you have to just stay very self motivated, very self driven. Don't expect everybody to come and teach you. Today's day and age, everything is open, all opportunities are there for you. Like if you don't get it from your immediate seniors, there are communities that exist today where you can reach out to people who can serve as your mentors from the outside and get you on the right path. तो यही है कि that's my only piece of advice, that don't lose track of what you want to achieve, because it's your dream, and don't let anyone take that away from you. Find an opportunity to get your ideas across to the right people so that they get implemented and people see the results. And if you don't get mentorship from your existing teams, then find someone else. But there are enough people out there wanting to do good and get bright people on the right path, I can assure you.
Yep.
I mean, I interact with them every day.
Yes, and I totally agree with you on that, Shanaz, because it's all about the intrinsic motivation, and I'm also a firm believer in that. Because no matter how much external motivation or external help you get, but unless until that doesn't come from you inside, you will not be able to sustain that in a longer run as well. Just like marketing, right? So you have to be consistent, you have to be persistent, you have to just keep on trying and trying. Yep.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the end of today's session. Though, of course, I don't want to end this session because, of course, there is so much to talk, right? And then we can actually talk for days, months, and years on our favorite subject. But having said that, I think, and I'm sure our audience will also resonate with that, that it was just like our masterclass on the science and the methodology, which really needs which not only leads but which actually goes behind marketing. And then if
There's
you
an art and a science to marketing. So while
exactly
you do the right things, I mean, don't forget that there's a creativity piece also involved in it. So like, don't only be one side brained, or whatever the phrase is. I mean, apply both, and you'll get to the best answers.
exactly. And with this, we'll end our today's session, Shanaz. We loved having you for our today's session, Shanaz, and we would definitely like to see you in our upcoming sessions as well. Thank you
Thanks.
so much.
Superb being on the Geo Events platform. Superb interacting with you. We've interacted over a couple of times now, and it's always been fun. Thank you, and thanks to your team for hosting me.
Yeah, thank you, Shanaz. Thank you to our audience, and we wish you all have a good day ahead. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Bye, Shika.